let's avoid that topic
Yeah.
because I already do have one strike expiring soon, but
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe they want to gift me another one.
Straight to our doorstep.
Yeah. So we were talking about the Great Replacement Theory,
Mm-hmm.
and I hear people talk about Brexit all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I understand it was like sort of geared like around like immigration stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, but I never really understood the full thing. What is Brexit?
So Brexit is so first before we go to Brexit, we got to understand the European Union. European Union started very early on, right after World War II, as an economic zone between West Germany, France, and the United Kingdom, actually, for steel, coal, and some other basic raw materials and industry for free trade. And the idea behind that was if we're interconnected by trade, we will not go to war with each other. And over time, this expanded to more democracies. It included more things like, okay, to be a member, you need to be a democracy. You need to have XYZ rights for your citizens. Your economy meets certain standards. You have certain regulations. And they're centered in Brussels. Mm-hmm. So they actually have an overarching like economic committee that everyone, every member state is a part of. They also have things like the Eurozone. So like Switzerland uses the euro, but they're not part of the EU. They have like different levels, but that's in short what it is. So Brexit was kind of started in 2012, like the movement, and then it came to a head with Brexit happening in like 2015, 2016. Where they to leave the European Union. This was so they wanted to basically impose different regulations, have more autonomy. And in part, so if you're EU citizen in a member country, you have access to go across borders freely.
Of course, yeah.
Totally, you can work there if you want. No extra paperwork. You're totally fine. So they wanted to prevent that for certain immigration. Well, kind of the problem you have when you're England and you do that, and you're the largest colonizer on Earth, is you have a connection to a lot of these countries outside of the EU. For instance, India. You have, so many African countries you already have these trade connections with. It makes a lot of sense. You have a lot of immigration there. The more you trade with a country, the more business interactions, the more it's like, oh, this makes sense because I'm doing business here. And so that's kind of how Brexit started. They also wanted to impose tariffs, have some more control over the currency, and it's been not a great success. I think right after Brexit, the British pound lost 10% of its value on the world stage.
Just right after?
Yeah, no, investors were like, this isn't a stable currency anymore. It is now, but there's a lot of economic ramifications. If you're familiar with Northern Ireland and Ireland and the conflicts there, that spurred a lot of conflict because Ireland is still an EU member state, where Northern Ireland Ireland's independent, whereas Northern Ireland is not. Yeah. So now no longer is there free transport.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, so that flared up tensions. There's been shootings with IRA, which is a organization that is prominent for Irish unification. Because of the EU, and there's everyone can cross borders pretty fine. Ireland, while not by government, is united. They are united. I can do business here. You can pretty much do everything you want as if they were one country.
Yeah.
So now that they need to figure out that Scotland, a part of the UK, also is much more left leaning. They are much more pro free trade. That also has spurned their independence movement from the UK off of England. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Huh. And so I could see why that would cause a lot of controversy.
Yeah, it was a very controversial move. It was very controversial so in England you have the Conservative Party, which is more like a center-right party.
Yeah. Which I think it's so interesting, not to interject, but I think it's so interesting that here we have a religious right and they don't.
So they kind of do, but it's a very small party.
It's not
it's not the main party.
Yeah.
They even have a religious left. There's but instead of two parties, they have many parties. Where the main center left party is the Labour Party, the main center right party is the Conservative Party. And then you have like Green Party, the UKIP party, which is like this pseudo libertarian alt right mix party. They're weird. They're weird.
But I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, this is just my opinion. I feel like it's better that way to have like 4 or 5 parties, right? There's four
Yeah, I
parties
agree.
that have representation in the UK Parliament, right?
So just about that. So you have the Conservative Party, Labour, Green Party,
Democratic
UKIP.
Socialist Party, right?
They're kind of like looped into Labour Party.
Okay.
So you kind of like your more just market liberals and Demsocs and like the kind of like the same party, and they kind of like meet in the middle between those two.
Yeah.
Like imagine, I guess, right of Bernie Sanders, left of Elizabeth Warren.
I see.
If like that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah, yeah. You have Sinn Féin, which is the Irish Nationalist Party for Northern Ireland, and then you have the SNP, Scottish Nationalist Party.
Oh, wow.
So Scottish Nationalist Party, they're more left-leaning. Same with Sinn Féin. They're both very left-leaning parties, usually make coalition governments with the Labour Party. Whereas, same with Green Party, the Conservative Party and UKIP usually are together, and I'm sure there's another right-wing party. I don't say right wing as kind of in the same aspect as the American right wing.
It's different.
Yeah, but if we have the middle, they're on the right hand side spectrum.
I see.
Similar with kind of Germany operates in a similar way. Australia, New Zealand, and Canada all kind of have very similar setups, very similar parties. That's kind of how they have multiple parties. They don't really have a dual party system like the United States has.
Which I feel like is better because you don't have one team versus the other creating all this chaos and division, which I think personally is manufactured by other people much more wealthy than us combined.
Yeah, 110%.
Yeah, but I just feel like it's better kind of to just like divide up all that outrage and chaos, and when the teams are smaller, I feel like it's a little bit better.
You're forced to cooperate.
Exactly.
Even if you don't want to, you have to. Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't know. It makes me sad sometimes when I hear people say, "Oh, I don't vote." And I mean, it's your right. I get it. It's your right. People always say, if you don't vote, then you shouldn't be able to complain. I don't even feel like you live here. You have freedom of speech. That's fine. But I don't know. It just makes me sad.
Yeah. We have men and women who have fought and died for those rights.